Well, hi, and welcome to Healing with Heart. I am Phil Lyle. I'm a chiropractor, and I began to teach this course, actually a number of courses under the umbrella of the title Healing with Heart. I began to teach these courses about 4 or 5 years ago, just around the same time that I was finishing up with chemo. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma about 5 years ago now, and underwent surgery and chemotherapy, and it really opened my eyes up to a whole new way of living in this world. I can now look back on that time and see the blessing in being diagnosed with cancer, and see the blessing in having gone through everything that I have gone through. I realize now that I was emotionally illiterate, that I had spent most of my life hiding, repressing, denying, in the words of the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung, my emotions, that I had pretty much no anger. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't have any anger. I didn't have the outward expression of anger towards the people that I was angry with, towards those people that I needed to set boundaries with. I was using no anger. That I did explode into rage every once in a while, and for the most part, I was turning all of my anger inward, in resent, in victimy, blaming, and finger pointing, in if-onlys and what-ifs and they should and I ought to. And I was doing the same, pretty much the same kinds of things with the other emotions as well. I had learned as early on in life, as most boys do, that fear wasn't an attractive emotion, that being vulnerable is seen as being wimpy in this society. And so I had certainly shut down fear. I had shut down, to some degree, shut down my sadness. And even joy, which you would think there should be full expression of in our culture as human beings. Even joy I wasn't fully manifesting as well. The goofy version of joy, the dancing portion of joy, I had also begun to shut some of that down as well. So I began on this path of becoming emotionally literate, and I began to read lots of books, listen to lots of tapes, attend many workshops. I began to get involved in facilitating emotional work, and it has changed my life. I can now look back on the changes that have occurred as a result of being diagnosed with cancer and see that it was, even though cancer was definitely not something I had wanted, it was somehow, in some strange twist, something that I needed. That it was the kick in the seat of the pants to get moving on living my life the way I really, in my heart of hearts, had always wanted. The other thing that I realized is that the reality that I was creating for myself wasn't all that real, that most of the things that I was worrying about weren't happening. And I thought for the longest time that the thoughts were me. I couldn't even, when I was listening to an Eckhart Tolle tape one day, and he was talking about philosophically the foundations of philosophy, and he I forget who it was that said this, but somebody a long time ago said, "I think, therefore I am." And Eckhart Tolle said, well, who is the person behind the thinking, the silent witness, the observer? And he said, who is that person in between the thoughts that's noticing the space between the thoughts? Who is that person? Who is the person observing the thinker and coming to the conclusion that the thinker is the I am? Anyway, I began to realize that there was something more to me than just the thinker. There was something more to me than all of that mind chatter that I now realize is most of it just a bunch of worry, a bunch of what ifs and if onlys and I oughta, I shoulda, I woulda, I coulda, and a bunch of chatter essentially. So I began to challenge a lot of that. I began to challenge those thoughts that I had believed were me, and I began to come down from the head and enter into the realm of the heart. And when I say heart in this course, I don't mean the mechanical pump inside of your chest. I mean something bigger, the energy that is at the very core of you that makes you, you. There are no atoms and molecules of this heart energy. It is, some people call it spirit, some people call it Buddha, some people call it God or soul or Jesus or Allah, whatever name that you put on it. Some people call it chromosomes or DNA or nature. Whatever name you put on it, it's that energy at the very core of us that heals, cuts, while you sleep, that allows your breathing and your heart to beat all night long. It's the energy that mends broken bones, while the cast keeps the bones straight, the fragments straight and in close approximation. It's the energy that's at the very core of you. It's what leaves your body on the day you die and what is infused in your body somewhere, I don't know, even in the womb perhaps. And I began to get comfortable with the word love, and you'll see in front of you now Scott Peck's definition of love. He says that love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. And prior to reading this definition, I never really was comfortable with the word love. I never really understood love. And this made so much sense to me. It wasn't some wimpy, sappy thing that I would do to gain affection. It was a powerful extension of myself for the purpose of nurturing my own or another spiritual growth. And I realized that I had done that all my life, but I'd never thought of that as loving. I never thought of that as a loving habit. Because it's not, and it does require some willpower, and it does require extending self, because there are times in relationships where it is the last thing I want to do is extend myself for the purpose of nurturing another. It's even difficult sometimes to extend myself to nurture my own self. So, and if you haven't read any of Scott Peck's books, I highly recommend them. He just puts things into words, into phrases that just make so much sense for me anyhow. And so I began this journey out of the head and into the heart, and I began to facilitate these courses that fall under the umbrella of Healing with Heart. I now teach some courses in communications. I now teach some courses in forgiveness. I am teaching some courses in a bunch of other things as well, conflict resolution, etc., etc. The other definition that we work a lot on in this course that I call Healing with Heart is definition of the word ego. And I use ego, it's a psychological term, and I don't know truly what the foundations of the word in psychology are. I am not a psychologist. I do not have any papers, any degrees in counseling or in psychology. I've taken a bunch of courses in psychology at the university level and abnormal psychology as a part of my chiropractic degree. But I use the words, and I define ego as, in the words of the poet William Auden, he said, "I am very different from the image which I try to create in the minds of others in order that they may love me." And for a famous poet to admit this, I thought was extraordinary. That I would have believed, when I first read this, it shocked my belief in that most famous people are trying to hide this very thing, that they put on a mask in certain situations so as to attract the admiration of their fans, and then they put on another mask in another situation to be accepted in other situations. And so when I read this quote by William Auden from probably, I don't know, 100 or so years ago, it just blew me away, and it speaks volumes to me about what I would call ego. The masks that I wear, the dance that I dance in order to attract to me the admiration, the acceptance, the love of others. I also interchange the word ego with the word persona. And persona is that same dance and that same mask that we put on in certain situations that cover up the core of us, the character that lies deep within us, that cover up the heart that resides at the very core of us. And so that's a big distinguishing feature in this course, is between acting from a place of love versus acting from a place of ego. This course, a lot of this course is I'm not here to teach you anything particular. I am here to welcome you back to that place within you that knows already. I'm here to, in the words of Eckhart Tolle again, he tells a parable about this old man who, walking through the streets of a city, comes upon a beggar, and the beggar asks for spare change, and the old man says, "I have none for you," and walks on by. And 20 steps later, he turns back and to the beggar says, "What's in that box that you're sitting upon?" The beggar looks down at the old wooden box and says, "I don't know. I've been sitting on this box for 10 years on this corner begging for change. I've never looked inside." And the old man says, "Look inside." And he does, and he finds inside a treasure of gold. And that is my job in this course as facilitator, is to show you, point the way back inwards to where the gold resides in you, where the fire within you is perhaps not burning as brightly as you would like it. And this course is not about making that fire burn the color that I think it should burn, or burn at the intensity that I think it should burn at, or the intensity that your mother thinks it should burn at. This course is about asking what it is that makes your fire burn brightly, and going about getting that reality to come to be true in your life. So it's not about asking what the world needs. It's asking what makes you come alive, and getting out there and doing it, or being that. Because what the world needs is more people who have fully come alive.